Okay, everyone, how are we doing? Wednesday, the 14th of February, also known as Valentine's Day, also known as Administration Day, as well as Stephen's pointing out. How are you, Ryan? I was about to say something really weird there. I'm not going to go down any weird route today, I promise. How are you, Ryan?
Things are good, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day to you too. Yeah, things are good. Had a day off yesterday, so had a wee bit of a time to recharge. But now back into the morning briefings, and yeah, delighted to be on.
I was thinking we could try and run through a Celtic 11 of Valentine's Day themed players, but I think Joe Hart
Joe
was
Loveheart.
that was as far as I got. John Hartson.
You could just do any player that's called Hart that's been in the team.
Yeah. Have we had a love through the years? Any loves? Come on, help us out, everyone. Help us out.
Yeah, and in the comments, if you've got any sort of Valentine's Day based uh, Celtic players, then please let us know because I'm struggling here after Joe Hart. We both get
Right,
the
we've got
same
a
one.
keeper. We've got Joe Hart in goals. Give us the rest of our team. Come on, I know you're all very clever with these things. A bit of Valentine's Day fun. Ryan, how are you feeling about Celtic at the moment?
Yeah, not too bad. I was quite enthused with the performance on Sunday afternoon. I know it was only 2-0, but a clean sheet, a sort of dominating performance out with maybe the 10 minutes of no control in the game where Gogic was getting overhead kicks off. But Joe Hart with
Mm.
good saves. I've mentioned a lot of Joe Hart in the first 1 minute 45 of this broadcast, so he'll be delighted with that. But yeah, I think two wins in a row, regardless of the way you win them, can make you feel a lot more enthused about the team. Considering that they dropped points at Pataudry, you're just hoping now that this is now a springboard into the rest of the season being, pretty much faultless because it has to be. Rangers have the chance to, if they score enough goals tonight, go ahead in the table. So it's up to Celtic to be firing on all cylinders, get that goal difference back up and win games. It's the only way they're going to win the league is if they're going to continually win games from now until the end of the season. So yeah, they know what they have to do, and it's all about going and delivering now on both fronts, on both the Scottish Cup and the Premiership.
Yeah, we've got 8 league games to go until the split. Rangers have got 9. They play that first one tonight at home to Ross County. If they win by 3 or more goals, they go to the top of the league. I've kind of resigned myself to that
Yeah,
fate. I think that is going to happen. How do you feel about that? I mean, we look back a couple of years ago, and I'm very aware it was very different, but we beat them in that derby to go top of the league, and we never looked back. Is there any worry that them going to the top of the league tonight could give them the boost and they might not look back, or is it a very different situation? I certainly feel it is different.
it's different to an extent. I'm still a tad concerned at how it's came to be honest, because as much as Philippe Clement has stabilised Rangers and they've been playing, winning football. It doesn't matter how you win games. If you're winning games of football, then you're doing something right. The fact it's been Celtic that have been sort of shooting themselves in the foot with their drop points. Look at the Motherwell game, St Johnstone before the Rangers game, Hearts and Kilmarnock. It's been all very much self inflicted. Rangers have stabilised and won games. Yes, they get beat against Celtic, but Celtic have got 2 wins over Rangers this season, and you know Rangers could still be top of the league at the end of the night, which is a tad problematic, and it probably shows the up and down sort of roller coaster of this season. But I think it is different, as you say, to that Ange Postecoglou first season where Celtic won the derby and then went on ahead. I think it's very even now at this point, just due to that stabilisation. Celtic can't up it. That's the thing. We know that Celtic have got another couple of gears to go up to get back to. If they can do that and win the remaining Glasgow Derby games, then I think they'll be absolutely fine. I think both teams will drop points before the end of the season. It's just that quality of the league at the moment. Probably the top two teams are quite weak compared to other years, I would say. Um, and there's some decent teams in the league. I know there's some poor teams in the league, but there's some decent teams that can probably take points off. Maybe I'm more worried about the Celtic side of that than the Rangers side. You look at teams like Kilmarnock, Hearts, etc., that have already done that in the past. But I'm confident that both teams will still drop points. It's all about timing. And if Celtic can win more games and win those two decisive derbies before the end of the season, there could be more if they both meet in the Scottish Cup. But if they can win those two derbies, then I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, the derbies are obviously going to be a huge part of it. As I say, I think there is a fair chance that we're second tomorrow, and then it's really about the reaction for me. It's how this Celtic team responds to that, because it's a position we haven't spent, any time this season, and certainly even in recent seasons it hasn't really happened. So I just hope we're focused on ourselves, and I know that's a bit rich given that we are kind of talking about the prospect of them going top, but certainly the players and the management, the inner sanctum, I hope that they're really focused on themselves, because we've got a big game on Saturday against Kilmarnock, and it's just kind of ticking the games off, hopefully, and trying to get back to that level. We were chatting yesterday, and I'm taking a lot of confidence from the fact that, like, when we were in a really dark place early December, the team kind of rose from that, and again we were missing a lot of players. There was real questions being asked of everyone really inside the club, and the team gradually kind of upped their game to the level where they were able to win that derby against a Rangers team who we were told were going to come and turn us over, and all their fans felt that way. So I think that the team has it, in their capabilities to really gradually up their game, and I think Sunday was a good start. There's so much still to work on. Like, that's still not a good Celtic performance as far as I'm concerned, but given where we were a couple of days earlier, again, if you're pushing that reset button, it's a good start, and hopefully we just continue to build on that against a pretty dangerous side in Kilmarnock at the weekend. Do we want to talk Liam Scales? Because that was probably the big report overnight, that Liam Scales is on the brink of being or getting a contract extension.
Negotiations up between the two. I think they have been for a while, but it looks as if Celtic are pushing that button and trying to get that finished as soon as possible.
So his current deal's up in 2025, so yep. That seems ages away, but it's really not. I mean, we're literally in 2024. I think it's the right decision, isn't it? I mean, Liam Scales has certainly earned it. What's the long-term thoughts on Liam Scales? Like, beyond this season, because I feel like he's always there to be shot down, and people always want to shoot him down, but I would say he's been one of our better performers this season, and that's not just a few matches, that's kind of the entire campaign.
I think he's definitely up there with one of Celtic's Player of the Season candidates. I know that probably says more about the season than anything else, but you've got to work with the players that you've got, and Liam Scales has been tremendous for most of the season. I think he has had a wee bit of a downwards trend in his form recently. He's not been as good as what I would say at the start of the season. You look at those performances against the likes of Lazio and Atletico Madrid, especially at home, and he really showed that he can play at that level. I tweeted about it last night, and I got a bit of bite back from Celtic supporters, and they were saying that they don't understand why this is the case, why he would be getting a new deal. I think it's just protecting your assets. I mean, I think it'll be the same people that say contracts aren't even worth the paper that they're on. You've got to protect your assets. Liam Scales has been a first team player for Celtic the whole season. It would be silly not to give him a new deal, because if a team wanted to give him an inflated price due to his performances this season, then it could be even more so with a new contract on the table. I've got absolutely no problem with him. I think he deserves it. I think it would be the right thing to do sometimes. Celtic have got to be on the right side of history with things, and Liam Scales deserves a new deal for what he's done this season. He has stabilised a defence that has looked unstable the whole season, I would say. He's been one of the only elements that's been a constant. I don't think he's been injured for a game this season. He's been consistent. Yes, he's had his ups and downs, but who hasn't in this team? Even Matt O'Reilly's had a downwards trend in his form recently, so I've got no issue with him getting a new contract. I think he deserves it, and you can never, as I said in my tweet, you can never have too many good pros in and around the squad. He's definitely a good pro. He's not a problem 100%. In the squad, and I just see no issues with this whatsoever. I think people are looking for a reason to moan with this, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two different things. Does he deserve a contract extension? I really don't think the answer can be anything other than yes. And I think the second part, which is more debatable, should he be a first team Celtic player going forward? Now, again, that's not anything against Liam Scales, but I think there is a debate to be had there. Should Celtic be looking to improve on Liam Scales for where we want to be in Europe mainly. And I say that with Liam Scales again having been one of our better performers in the Champions League this season, but still, maybe do you look for a higher level? I would certainly be hoping so. I don't know if the recruitment team will be, because they've not exactly shown that over the last 2 windows, but as a fan I'd be hoping that there's an even better option than Liam Scales out there. However, we play 60 odd games a season. Liam Scales has proven himself this season to be a Celtic player, a player we can rely on. I think it's a great point you make. He's a good guy, and I know that might not count for a lot with some people, but he's the kind of person you want around. Like, if Liam Scales wasn't playing, I mean, we literally have evidence of this, but when Liam Scales wasn't playing, there was no issues there. He was still, turning up to training and giving his all and just waited for his chance. Like, he's clearly a very switched on guy and a good person to have around. So I think Liam Scales, ideally for me, as your third choice centre back, is a good option. He's reliable. He can come in, no questions asked if there's ever any injuries, and again we've had them this season, and I don't think every contract extension has to be for a player you're going to nail down a first team spot for. I think you can have guys like Ralston. Again, there was a lot of kind of controversy when he was offered his new contract, and Stephen Welsh, and Scales and people like that. It's good to have these guys around because you really rely on them in times like this, and if we didn't have these guys and maybe had players who were more likely to rock the boat or maybe less reliable, then we'd be in even more of a mess right now. I mean, guys like Ralston, Scales and Welsh are kind of the ones really standing up at the moment.
Yeah, and it's important to have continuity in your side as well. You can't chop and change your side every single season. There has to be that continuity there, and I think Scales, I know he's been out on loan to Aberdeen for that season, but he's been about for a wee while now. I think this is his third season contracted to the club, so he knows what it's all about. You can't buy that acclimatisation anywhere else. He's acclimatised to the league due to playing for Celtic sporadically in that first season. In the second season, he played basically every game for Aberdeen when he was fit, and now he's played almost every game this season due to defensive issues, yes, but if he was playing poorly, then the likes of Nawrowski and Welsh would have already been back in the team by now and been first team picks. But the fact that they're getting chopped and changed every single game, it seems, due to injuries, admittedly, shows how good Liam Scales has been doing. I think it's so important to have that continuity. I think even signing up players like, and I know he doesn't get a lot of game time, but James Forrest, back a few years ago, I know a lot of people were against that, but you can kind of see the positives as well, having these players that know what it's like to play for the club in and around the team. Because if you have a team full of like 11 new players, then they might understand, but they might not understand when they're actually playing what it means to play for Celtic, where even a draw is a bad result. Having these players in and around the team that understand the demand and understand the assignment is so important. So yeah, I've got no issues with this whatsoever. It doesn't mean I think that Celtic could probably get better than Liam Scales. I think they should if they're if they've got a competent recruitment team, which is very much in the balance at the moment, you would say, over the past 3 or 4 windows. But I don't think the two are exclusive. I think you can sign up Scales and still look for better players in the summer as well. But it's good to have that safety blanket in Scales that shows he's shown he can do it in the Scottish League, and that's where Celtic are playing in their bread and butter at the moment. Domestically, it is their bread and butter, and it's good that he can come in and make a difference in the team.
Yeah, he's 25 years old as well, so he's not young, but he's still maybe just going into his peak. What is your peak? Maybe kind of 26 to 30, I would say. Yeah, I guess it differs from player to player, but there's still probably improvement to be had in Liam Scales. Ideally for me, looking forward, we don't really know in Nawrowski yet. I would say there's been a few worrying signs there recently, but again, like the calibre of him, being a regular, quite sought after at Legia Warsaw, I would hope that he could turn out to be a really solid partner for Cameron and Carter Vickers. But there's just so much in the air at the moment with our centre backs. Like even Cameron and Carter Vickers, we don't know what the situation is there, and as time goes on and he plays, less and less games due to injury, the worries kind of grow with everyone. So I think it's good to have guys like Scales and Welsh in the building. I mean, they're literally both playing at the moment. But certainly, if there's, I would like to see us go out and sign a really kind of top centre back in the summer, the way things are. But maybe a few players might need to leave before then as well. But I think generally it's good news, and I think Chilpel agrees with that, saying Scales absolutely deserves a new contract. Steve saying Liam's defending is still great. His ball distribution has lacked somewhat recently, but that can be improved again. I must say, just on Scales, like I've kind of not really noticed him recently. I've seen loads of some people saying, Scales is still doing great, he's a standout. The St Mirren fan we had on yesterday was saying, he was really impressed by Scales. And I've seen other tweets and things of people saying Scales has really dropped off, and I've kind of not even really noticed him. Has he been obvious to you, like his current level?
I don't think he's been noticeably bad or off form or anything like that. I think he just motors on and continues doing his job. He's that sort of player. I don't think he's a spectacular player whatsoever. He's not really got a lot of spectacular attributes. I know he's had a couple of instances this season where he's played a nice cross ball over to Kyogo. I think there was a good chance earlier on in the season. I can't remember exactly who it was against. I think it was Ross County at Dingwall, where he showed that he's got that long range passing in his locker. But I don't think he's been noticeably bad. I just think it's been a collective malaise in the squad at the moment, that I think the team just haven't been firing on any cylinders whatsoever, and they've seen the problems in that. But I don't think he's done anything individually bad. I think the Aberdeen goal in particular was just a catalogue of errors, and that was more Nawrowski than anyone else. Nawrowski and Bernabe as well.
Three players worse than him for that goal straight away. I mean, Palmer, Bernabe and Nawrowski were all at fault more than Scales, weren't they?
And I think that people, I mean, if Celtic concede any goal, then they'll automatically look at the centre backs. But I don't think he's really been at fault for many goals this season whatsoever. I think he's been one of the consistent players. And I've got to be honest, I have wanted Nawrowski back in the team in certain moments this season. That's just due to the fact that Celtic have signed a £4.5 million defender, and you want to see a £4.5 million defender in the starting lineup alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Yeah, that's a big
thing. That's just an aesthetic thing, because I want to see these players that Celtic sign for good money contributing, and maybe you would look at Scales as a less attractive option due to the fact he was out on loan last season. He was signed for under $1 million 3 seasons ago, but the best players have got to be playing at that moment, and Scales has been one of the best defenders. I'd argue he probably has been the best defender for Celtic this season, out with Joe Hart's recent good form. So he deserves his spot. He deserves a new contract that reflects his new status in the team, which is a first team player, because he was a bit of a project before then. He'll probably be on project-esque money, so I think he deserves this reward if he is to accept it. And yeah, I don't think you can have too many pros in and around the team. He could still improve. He's 25 years old. We've seen late bloomers before, but I think it's just smart, and it's asset protecting as well. If a team really wanted Scales, then they'd have to pay good money to take him off Celtic's hands.
Yeah, Paul is a fan. He says if a player performs at that level, big comment here, what's his reward? I go like that so you can still see me. You won't find a more committed player. And point of fact, we were in our friend's bar in Rotterdam the night after the game away to Feyenoord. The chat from the Feyenoord supporters was all about how good Liam played. If you're not rewarded for playing as well as he did, he deserves better. He did do well. I was just thinking there, completely off topic, well, slightly off topic, but like how much we all took Carter Vickers and Starfelt as a partnership for granted, and like when you've done without that partnership this season, it's mad how you just kind of took that for granted, and the partnership they went on to form, and that incredible record they had, where I don't think they ever actually lost like a domestic game they started or something like that together. And it's mad. You wonder how different our season would have been, and how many points would have been clear if it had been CCV and Starfelt still at the back this season. I mean, that's where I've got like sympathy for Rodgers and stuff like that.
Yeah, Starfelt was another one of those sort of one of those players that has been in different eras, but you don't really notice it. Like
I
Starfelt, he
think he'll
played
be
in that one or
remembered
two.
so fondly. Like
Oh,
genuinely, I think he will
absolutely,
be
absolutely.
like.
I mean, in the Ange Postecoglou era, but the fact is, he played one game under Brendan Rodgers. He came off the bench against Ross County, but I think everybody knew then that he was moving to Celta Vigo. He had that one game. I think he was so unlucky.
Scored an own goal.
His last contribution was an own goal, which is really, really harsh on the player. But I think history will be incredibly kind to Carl Starfelt, because he was a much maligned player for large parts of his Celtic career, but I think he was picked on due to the fact that he was quite awkward and gangly on the ball. But you know, one-on-one defenders, there wasn't many better apart from maybe Cameron Carter-Vickers. But there was games in that, especially in that second season, where I thought Starfelt was better than Cameron Carter-Vickers, and they both complemented each other so well. Yeah, he's been a big miss, but I think it's the continuity that's been a big miss as much as anything else. Those two were so used to having each other next to each other, and they played such a large amount of games. There was hardly any injury problems until maybe that one point where Jens was in and around the team, and Cameron Carter-Vickers obviously had that injury towards the end of Ange Postecoglou's second season. But I just think the two of them not being there has been a big blow this season. Not having Carter-Vickers, who is by far and away the best defender in Scotland by some distance, it would hurt any team that's playing in this league, but even more so Celtic, because I think his passing's quite underrated as well as his defending and his distribution of the ball. So yeah, I think he has been a massive miss this season. He signed that new deal, but it does worry me at the same time at the speed in which that new deal was signed, as if maybe he knows he's got injury problems and he's happy with his lot. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping that's just conspiracy theories on my part, but you worry. You don't want these injuries stacking up, especially with a player as good as Carter-Vickers. I'd love him to stay for the rest of his career. At the same time, I want him to be that outstanding player that's attracting interest from everywhere because of how good he is on the park. Because it's a good thing. It's a compliment at the end of the day.
100% you'd settle for that. I just think Carter-Vickers has gone so under the radar, not with Celtic fans really, but just out with that. The fact there hasn't been actual interest that we know about in Carter-Vickers, you know, in his time at Celtic so far. The fact he hasn't even been nominated for like a PFA award in either of his first two seasons, and I don't think he will be this season, is just mad to me. But anyway, the news was Liam Scales talk about a new contract, so we'll keep you updated if anything happens there. Last night, Mikey Johnson scored for West Brom after less than a minute against David Turnbull and Nat Phillips. Cardiff City, I think West Brom won that 2-0. So pretty good start for Mikey Johnson. I saw the West Brom social media team were bigging him up there.
Yeah, then I'm delighted to see him doing well. He's a player that I don't really think has a future at the club. The way in which he left as well, the way the fans sort of not treat him, but I think the public perception of the player is one that blows far too hot and cold for their own liking. But I do like seeing a lone player go out and do well. I think all his best performances have been away from the club, in all honesty. You know, you look at his performances in Portugal, his performances for the Republic of Ireland, where he seems to be one of the main men in that team. I just think some players aren't cut out for playing for Celtic, for better or for worse, and I want him to do well at West Brom. West Brom are a team, I think they're sort of fighting for one of those playoff spots. There seems to be a real three or four powerhouses at the moment, and you've got Leicester, who Enzo Maresca, you've got Ipswich, Leeds, and I think it's Southampton that are in good form as well. So they're pushing for a playoff spot, and he seems to have done really well. I think his future's away from Celtic, as I said, but every lone player that goes out from the club you want to see do well. So yeah, I'm delighted for him. And you know, I want to see David Turnbull kick on as well, because it's been a very stop-start couple of years for him. I know he's not contracted to Celtic anymore. He's a Cardiff City player permanently, but I want to see him do well. Maybe for the good of Scotland as well, because you want Scottish players to be doing well down south as well. You know, it raises the profile.
Yeah, the other story I saw yesterday, and it's literally just a tweet, but there was a bit of chat about Celtic potentially getting a decent allocation for Ibrox. it literally was a tweet. You never know if it's based on any truth, or if it's someone just chucking something out there for a bit of online traction. What do you think? Is there any chance of that?
I don't see any chance of that, just due to the fact of the way it was at Christmas time, the New Year's fixture. I don't see why there would be any change, unless it'd be like, right, that's what happened at Ibrox, and then this is what happened at Celtic Park, and now it's a fresh slate between the two teams. But it's one of those ones. What do we call a decent allocation? Is it decent compared to what there is, which is nothing, or is it like? I don't think I think the days of the full broom loan stand are unfortunately done, due to the fact that Rangers have sold season tickets in and around that area, and it'd be difficult to shift them. Say what you want about that sort of transaction or that sort of dealing by the club, but it's difficult to move season ticket holders once they're quite happy in that position. I think the best way forward would be a European allocation. Similar to the way that that Borussia Dortmund got when they played against Rangers, that Liverpool got when they played against Rangers at Ibrox. Still a sizable amount, and Celtic fans, as we know, can make a lot of noise. But I think the days of the full broom loan end are behind the derby, unfortunately. But I want the fixture to get back to a decent allocation for both games, because it is the money maker with sponsorship deals, with TV deals, and it's the supporters that make it, for good or for bad. I think it's absolutely saturated, and it needs to be returned to some sort of normality. It seems as if this is the only fixture that's now dealing with a lockdown, when every other fixture isn't dealing with one in one way or the other. I know there's still fans at it, but I think there needs to be both fans to make it a proper derby.
It's a divisive issue, it's fair to say. Most things are in Glasgow, but this certainly is. And many people don't want away fans, they don't want Rangers fans at our ground, and I'm sure there's Rangers fans who don't want Celtic fans at their place. I'd like to think that there's also a sizable amount of people who would like the atmosphere to be boosted in these matches, and that's kind of where I come down. I think you're right, it's never going to go back to that old allocation of those glorious days in the broom loan, because they basically spat the dummy out, and they're never going to have someone in power with the guts to go back to that, and I don't think they even would want to. But like, if it was like 2,500 or 2,750, I think Scott's saying just under 3,000 he's hearing on Facebook, like, that would really set up the last two derbies of the season. Like, that would be pretty exciting. I mean, it's already kind of getting me excited, just the prospect of that. And don't get me wrong, I'm already up for those games and will be, regardless of if there's any away fans there or whatever. But it would just really set up like a couple of real high profile matches and a real good advert for Scottish football. So personally, I hope there's something to it. And I don't know, like, I've kind of been hearing from a few different people over the last week or so that there's kind of something going on with regards to this. I certainly think next season a solution has to be found, because no matter what you think, having a world where there's no Celtic fans at Ibrox and no Rangers fans at Celtic Park, for me is not palatable. And there's real safety concerns at Ibrox as well that they need to sort out, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But you look at the best atmosphere in a Celtic Rangers game recently, they've all happened at Hampden Park, because both fans have had a sizable amount. I'm not saying it should be 50-50. That is not even an argument before. You couldn't do that's a home game, obviously, but if you've got a sizable amount of support for both teams, it enhances the derby as a whole. I think you've got to look at the bigger picture here, and I think both teams have got to just bite the bullet and get this sorted. Because I'm tired of the discourse every time this fixture comes along. It's the same stuff over and over and over again. It's the same headlines every single derby. I'm bored of it, to be honest. If you just get it back to a sizable derby allocation and enjoy the derby for what it is again. It's the fans that make the derby, for better or for worse. Without it, it's just another game of football. And I know all the different historical elements that there is to it, but I think there has to be a middle ground here. Both teams need to come in the middle and get this sorted.
Yeah, I mean Celtic stance says we want a return of away fans in sizable numbers. Rangers don't. For me, that's the bottom line. And yeah, the ball's in their court as it has been throughout this. Is there anything else on your mind, Ryan, before we round up a couple of members of our Valentine's Day 11? If there's any more suggestions, get them in quickly.
I'm just thinking early doors to this this Kilmarnock game. I think one of the better performances this season was Kilmarnock at home. I think a large part of that was down to Rio Hatate. Everybody knows who watches this podcast that Hatate's my favourite player in this current Celtic team, but he had a storming performance against Kilmarnock, and it was a good game. You know, Kilmarnock had a go, and Celtic done well to beat them, but you know, Kilmarnock have got the upper hand against Celtic in terms of head-to-head this season. I think they've won 2 games and lost 1. So, you know, it's up to Celtic to even that up between the two sides. They're going to play each other again after the split for sure, because, you know, Kilmarnock are having a tremendous season. I would go as far to say that Derek McInnes is probably going to be one of the main candidates for Manager of the Year, given his... I
thought you were going to tip him for the award there.
No, I'm going to say one of them. I think Stephen Robinson's up there as well.
Brendan's going to win it when he wins the double.
Yeah, even if he wins the double, I'm not sure if he'll be in the running, just due to the way this season's went. But yeah, a good manager, a good operator at this level, and it'll be a difficult game because they're a team that are really on form at the moment. Danny Armstrong's been one of the players of the season. They've got players all over the team that are playing well. You know, Lewis Mayo, I think, used to be at Rangers, who had a really good couple of games against Aizen Maeda in the past. So, yeah, a good team. They'll be up for it coming to Celtic Park on Saturday afternoon, and it's up to Celtic to put things right between the two teams this season.
I sense there's a little bit of a change in the Celtic support over the last few days. And I think we're ready to go now. I think we're ready to go for this run-in, if we even are quite at the run-in stage yet. But I think Saturday's going to be like kind of good atmosphere at Celtic Park, and hopefully the team really respond to that, and kind of it's a kind of vibrant afternoon. But I just get the impression that there's so much we're unhappy about at Celtic right now, but I think the team have always had our support. But I think even more so now that things are really tight, and we've got all these games to come, and everything's still in our hands. And like, if Celtic win the double this season, it'll still be a really magical season we'll look back on. And like, I still believe the team. I still believe in them to win both trophies. Like, I think we're yet to see the best of this Celtic team this season, and I think we might see it between now and the end of the season. Gloves are off, Welsh Paul is saying.
That's it. It's definitely gloves weather at the moment in Scotland. It's quite cold, but yeah, I think if any time Celtic need to use now is the time to get back on form. You know, now until the end of the season. This is now I think they are in the business end of the season. They will certainly be if the result is unfavourable tonight from Ibrox, and Celtic are at second place. You know, I think that not the alarm bells will be sounding, because I think they've been sounding for a while, but it'll be like that ocular proof that Celtic are very much in a title race. You know, they're not first place, and they've been first place for so long this season, despite their up and down form. You know, that might spur them on to get that next gear in place. Hopefully that isn't the case, and Celtic are still top by the end of tonight, but I'm not really expecting too much from a team that don't even have a manager at the moment. Then again, the last time a Celtic Rangers team faced off against a team that didn't have a manager, they got a draw. So, you know, and that was Aberdeen v Celtic. So a draw tonight would be an absolutely tremendous result, but I'm not too confident. You know, all the best to Don Cowie. Hopefully he gets a good result at Ibrox. He's the interim manager, I believe. But yeah, I'm not the most confident for a result going in Ross County's favour this evening.
Let's hope Ross County get interim tonight at Ibrox, eh? Yeah, Andy Blackhall, Effie Ambrose. Very good. These are not as good as I was hoping. I've only had 5 in here. Ian McIntosh, George McClovsky. Steve's gone for 2. I like these ones. Steve taking it seriously. Paddy McCourting. Very nice. and Glenn Lovins,
Oh,
which I
that's
like. And where are we playing? Of course, we're playing at Love Street. Magic memories there. Right, that's a kind of somber way to end.
There's a
video.
worse one that's just came in. The Jozo one. I don't even think that's worth bringing up, to be honest.
Got to do it now. Thanks, JM, for that. Jozo Simunowicz, very good. Love it. Right, yeah, we'll just head off. The video has been brought to you by MPH Group and Navien. MPH, as you know by now, are Scotland's award-winning family-run oil trade specialists. They cover mainland Scotland, and they have a Navien Boiler Promotion for you. You get a free Navien Internet Controller. You get flexible finance options and much more. You can still make the smart move. Right, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. We'll be back this time tomorrow.